Hey everybody, welcome again to the Modern Trumpeter Podcast. Today's guest is Willie Murillo, trumpet player, producer, vocalist, and songwriter from Los Angeles. I first discovered him during his time playing with Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band and was fortunate enough to do an online lesson with him many years ago. It was exciting to reconnect and talk about the trumpet and about his career. As one of the leading studio musicians in Los Angeles, he can be heard on countless albums, film soundtracks, and television productions. Murillo has also shared the stage with artists such as Stevie Wonder, Christina Aguilera, Natalie Cole, Maynard Ferguson, Tony Bennett, and many more. He has also performed with Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band and the Brian Setzer Orchestra. And as a reminder, we are writing a book called The Modern Trumpeter, a guide to building a versatile and successful career. Releasing in late 2026, this book aims to provide trumpet players with insights and stories from professional trumpet players on how to make a career as a trumpet player. Topics range from Broadway and pit work, wedding ceremonies, military bands, cruise ships, and much, much more. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube for updates of when the book will be published. And if you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, please share it with a trumpet player that you know. Comment what your favorite moments and insights from the episode were. And thank you all for listening. Now let's get to my interview with Willie Murillo. Hey everybody, welcome back again to the Modern Trumpeter Podcast. Today we're speaking with the one and only Willie Murillo. Willie, thanks for joining us today. I didn't know we were going to get a dance show too. This is great.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This is really fun. I'm happy that you're doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. To start out, I always like to ask, how you first got started on trumpet and kind of the moment you were like, yeah, I want to do trumpet for a living.
Yeah, the first thing that I'll tell you is that everything that I do is from the perspective of my Christian life. So I'm a Christian and I claim Jesus Christ and that's how I live. So, when you say like, how did you get started? I fully believe in like divine appointment. Like this is what I was meant to do. There's this idea that we choose our vocation, and I don't necessarily think it's true. I kind of feel like it chooses us and it's something we do. So I remember when I was like 14, the new Indiana Jones came out. And I remember like watching that. And I can even remember watching Indiana Jones. I think Indiana Jones came out when I was like 8 or 9 or 10, something like that. And I remember watching it when I was a kid. And even though my dad was a trumpet player, I didn't know anything about the trumpet or music, or like, I just used to sing in the back of the car as a kid. And I was like, we were always around music. My dad was a band director. But I kind of knew there was just some kind of gravitational pull to music. And I remember hearing that sound like, dum, 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 dum. And of course, it's Malcolm McNabb, the one and only.
Yeah.
Hearing that, going, that's what, like, I want that.
Yeah.
And then, like, hearing Earth, Wind, and Fire and all the Jerry Hayes stuff, even knowing that kind of stuff, I was like, this is what I want to do. I just felt it. So it's an interesting thing. I've been around music my whole life. When I was a kid, I sung in choirs in church, and my dad was a trumpet player, so we had like a church orchestra, so I'd go there. He was in the army band, so I'd go with him. It was just around it. They always people talk about nature versus nurture. And so I was around music my whole life. And so I just wanted to do music. I knew it was going to be a great thing. And then it just went, man. And then when I was in high school, my freshman year, that was it, man. Actually, I'll tell you a fun story.
Yeah.
When I was in 8th grade, I'm in junior high, and this friend of mine says, he goes, let's ditch school and ride skateboards all day. And I had never ditched, like, I was a good kid. I had never even thought, I was like, all right, let's do it. So I pretend I'm sick, of course. And, like most kids, they can pull it off pretty good. So I'm home all day. The kid never shows up. And I was like, you rat bastard. I was all bummed out. So, and I couldn't like go out because people would see me. And my school was like literally like 4 doors down. So I didn't like leave the house. And so I'm in the house, and we didn't have TV when I was a kid. So I'm like walking around the house, like, what am I going to do? This is the worst decision I've ever made. Now I'm bored to tears. And I see my trumpet. I'm like in like 8th grade band or 7th grade band, whatever. I think it was 7th. And I open it up, and I'm like, so pick it up, and I'm like messing around with it, and I go, and I just make like this little tiny little squishy embouchure, and I squeak out a high G. And I was like, huh. And then I leave and I go do something. I'm playing with my toys or in the backyard or something. And something kept calling me. So I kept coming. It was on my bed. I can totally picture it right now. And I kept walking back into my room. That was it. That was it, man. After that, I was like, and I don't know what it is about. And I don't think it was sound or high notes, or I think it was just all of it. So that's how mine began, man, by ditching school.
Well, thanks to your friend for
I know.
stuff, right?
I know. Funny, right?
That's awesome. And then of course, going through high school, where'd you go to college after that?
I grew up in California, in a city called Whittier, which is kind of like East Los Angeles area, and grew up there. And we were on the come up of like a really good high school. Like it was starting to, the band was good. And we had this extraordinarily talented pianist who was my girlfriend, actually. Unfortunately, she decided that life was not worth living later on. But she was easily the most talented person I've ever met. So here I am in this come up, and my dad was not only the band director at first, but then he was the ASB director or vice principal. And so I was really connected, and I did sports. So now I'm getting into high school youth, and I'm like, ooh, this is fun to be somebody in life. And the self-esteem bug zapped me. And I was like, this is fun. I want to get good grades. It really inspired me to do a lot of things, be very social. I played football. I wrestled. I ran track. I did lots of stuff. And it was just kind of a catalyst for a lot of things. So high school was an incredible thing. And I was a pretty decent student. Like I graduated with like a 3.6. Of course, nowadays, my kids graduated with like a 4.6.
Yeah.
And they're like, an idiot. Like, what are you talking? Like, I'd be failed out of school if And so for me, that was totally enough. I got all kinds of scholarships to college. So I go to Cal State Fullerton, which is where it's state school in California. So I go to state school in California, and I'm telling you, man, from day one, I just knew, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to graduate. Not because I couldn't do it, not because I didn't have the capacity or the capability to do it. But I was just like, I just felt it. I'm like, there's something else that's going to happen. This is not exactly it for me. So sure enough, within 3 semesters, I ended up dropping out. I ended up getting a Broadway show called Fame. And for those that are watching this that are like, born in the 80s, 90s, 70s, late 70s, you remember Fame. It was a famous TV show series, and then they made a Broadway show out of it. It's about a high school performing arts, and it paid like $2,900 a week when I was 19.
Jeez.
So I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was all excited, And the funny story about that I'll tell you is that I'm ditching school again from college. And I'm just like, I never went to school. Like, I was like, I'm going to stay home and practice all day, every day. And when I tell you that I was a practicer in high school and in college, I mean, like in the summers, on Saturdays and Sundays, I was like 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And so I'm home my sophomore year of college, ditching school, of course. And I'm playing, I'm practicing tons. I get a phone call. And it was this lady said, hey, we got your number from Wayne Bergeron. Well, that's all I needed to hear. And I was I was like, yeah, what do you need me to do? So it was a high school performing arts show. And they're like, we want you to come audition for the show. And I was like, okay. And I had never really done an audition except for like the honor groups in high school.
Sure, yeah.
So I go and they're like, we need you to come down to Debbie Reynolds Studios. It's in Hollywood. And I'm like,
Yeah.
So I go down there. I'm in like shorts and a t-shirt, like a fool, flip-flops, And I walk in and they're like, can we hear you play? So I go, sure. So I play. Oh, that's great, man. That's really great. And they go, okay, great. Another producer will be right with you. This guy walks in and he goes, hey, are you a singer? Like, I heard that you sing. You put on the thing that you sing. And I go, yeah, I sing. Like, I've been singing since I was a kid. So he gets to the piano and I walk over and I'm reading over his shoulder. He goes, oh, you read? I go, well, yeah, like I play trumpet, so I know how to read music. He goes, great. So I sung this thing. He goes, great, wonderful. Somebody else will be with you in a second. So then the dance captain walks in. Gorgeous, like 20-something. And she's like, okay, here, come out here. Da, 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 da. I'm like, what's going on? Like I'm so green and young and dumb. I don't have any idea what's going on. So she's like, okay, do this, blah, blah, blah. Then the guy next to goes, somebody will be right with you. She goes, that's fine. That's workable. So the next guy walks in. He goes, read these lines. And I'm like, what is this? What am I? And so turns out that there's a guy called Lars. Lars is this Greek god. He's like, 6'2", looks like an Abercrombie model. He's beautiful, ripped, got talented actor guy. Well, so when I got the call, they called me, and I'm thinking it's like for the pit orchestra.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I know. Like, you get called for a show, and I had done shows at like community theater every summer, so I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing a show. I'm like, hey, Bergeron got me for a show. I must be really good. Well, so this guy, Lars, writes on his resume that he played saxophone. So some of the producers were like, there's a trumpet thing in the show, saxophone. It's the same thing. It'll be fine. So the whole, the main theme of the show is called Fame, and it's called the Hot Lunch Jam. And it's like this 7-minute sequence that revolves around the trumpet player character. His name is Goody in the show. So it's 8 days before opening. Lars pulls out his saxophone, thinks he's going to dust it off and be fine. And it's like a real thing that you got to be able to play. It's like a high note Latin thing for like 2 minutes, and then you take a break, you do a dance sequence, and then you come back and do a thing. It's a whole thing.
Wow.
So Lars, this guy couldn't do it. So they fire him. They go, we got to find somebody that can play trumpet. This is, what it's supposed to be. So what do? They call the union, and they say, hey, we need a great trumpet player. But they didn't tell him what it was for. So what do? They give him Wayne Bergeron's phone number. So they call Wayne Bergeron. They go, hey, we heard you're like a great trumpet player. And they go, well, what's the gig? And they said, oh, it's this high. He goes, no. That's not me. I'm like 40 years old. Whatever, only 35 years old, or however old Wayne was at the time.
Yeah.
And they go, no, you need like a young guy that looks like he's in high school that can really play. He goes, call this guy Willie. He'll be great. It'll be fine. He'll set you up. Plus, he's Hispanic, and it takes place in New York, there was like a lot of like Puerto Ricans in the School of the Arts, and this kind of. He goes, he'll be great for this. So they call me. They don't tell me what it is. So I go to audition. All this happens. Hey, let me hear you play. Hey, let me hear you sing. Read these lines. Dance. And I'm like, what is going on? So they go, listen, we got a couple of days. We got 7 days till opening. Like, we're moving into the theater tomorrow. We need somebody. They told me the story, and I was like, jeez. And I'm thinking, I'm smart enough at least to understand, like, this is going to be a thing. I can't get out. Like, I can't bail on this once I get in. And it's
4 months, you said?
So this is in February of my sophomore year of college. So I'm like, essentially, I'm quitting school, like, to do this show. So I'm like, okay, what do I do here? Now, the summer after this show, I'm going straight into the All-American College Band. So I'm like, okay, fine, like, I'll do it. So they go, I said, can I have a couple days to think about it? And they were like, nah, you gotta know now. I go, okay, let's do it. $2,900 a week. I was like, let's go. I was one of the main characters. I don't know anything about equity shows and that it's union. So all I know is that I'm playing the trumpet.
Yeah.
So into this thing, and this is where I meet Ray Brown, the trumpet player who's playing Earth, Wind, and Fire. He's in the pit. This is where I meet Charlie Marillis. This is where I meet Brian Miller, who is still one of the biggest contractors in Los Angeles. Hollywood Bowl Orchestra, Pantages Theater, all things live performance.
Yeah.
So I was 19, and this is where I started and once I did that show, man, that was it. I was sold. I had no idea what I was in for. And I think that was probably good. It's like you talk to a Navy SEAL and you go, hey, one of these days you're going to have to like hang by your fingernails for 3 days in the jungle. But nobody's going to sign up for that. So with like the musical thing, you go, yeah, okay, let's do it. But it was in my heart. It was like written on my heart since the beginning of time. I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then it just went from there. So that's how I got in. Crazy story, right?
That is crazy.
So,
gigs to get. Wow.
I know, silly. So you have a child.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me.
Yeah. So she's just about 9 months now, almost approaching 10.
I need to see a picture. I got to see a picture.
Let's see.
Because I'm a dad of 5, so I love kids, and I love.
Yeah, she's hilarious. She loves let's see, where's a good one? She's getting into this nose scrunchy face.
That's the greatest.
Yeah, all the time. She loves me singing to her, and sometimes I'll play the trumpet, and she's just like, so it's so much fun.
Yeah, so you're a trumpet player. You're a great trumpet player. And you have a child. If you knew the perils and the difficulties of doing this, and you're like, the whole world weighs on my shoulders, I gotta provide for this family, would you have chosen to do that?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So I think it's funny. I think it's like some of the guys in the older generation, like I was really, really good friends with my dear friend, God rest his soul, Gary Grant.
Yeah.
And Gary was so sweet to me. I went over his house all the time. In fact, right by my feet right now, I'm kicking his subwoofer. We were talking about mixing. He taught me how to mix horns and do all kinds of stuff. And he goes, okay, on your subwoofer, you want to make sure. And I go, I don't mix with a sub. And he goes, Willie. He literally gets down on the ground. He's under there for like 2 minutes. He's unplugged and stuff. And he drags out. He goes, take this home. You got to mix with a sub. And I was like, all right, And I think like some of the older generation guys like that, and I don't mean to sound the way that it sounds with all the older guys, like, Rourke is terrible since the 80s and the synthesizers. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe that at all.
Sure.
Because it's the same for us. COVID, in the 90s, there was like alternative bands. Like everything changed in the 90s with music.
Yeah.
Gary was always one of these really optimistic guys who just like, no, I'm a bad A, trumpet player, and I'm a lovely guy. So like, of course it's gonna.
Yeah.
That was one of those things I got from Gary that I was like, yeah. And so like that generation kind of thought that way. And that was like one of the most beautiful things I think I'm 51. And so the guys that are like 65, 70, 80, like that generation, Malcolm McNabb, all like the people that I studied from, like Gary and the generation of Jerry and Chuck Finley and all those guys, they just kind of like, I don't think it was just because they had, and it was a different time, but that's also true.
Sure.
But I think it was like just something about it, there was like a societal optimism about it. And that's what I've chosen to do in my life. It's just kind of, and I got to tell you, like, I've never, ever not been busy. And I'm 51, and I started at 18. I started at 16. And it's not because I'm so great, or anything like that. It's just, that's just kind of how it works for me. The phone is going on. Anyway. You know what I mean? And so, I started at 16, and then that show happen. Then I went to the All-American College Band, met all kinds of people. And that was it, man. I've been working ever since.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's so the part of the fun for me of interviewing, all these people, hearing how they got things started and going. But the cool thing is, like, it's all so different. There's no one way. There's no set path. There's people who like.
I disagree. Let me tell you where I disagree.
Sure. Yeah.
But there is a through line, and there's 3 through lines: hard work, consistency, and love. Yeah. Those are the 3 through lines. And I love, like, Kobe Bryant used to talk about that a lot. And I love hearing Kobe his talk. There's a great story about Kobe Bryant where he goes to some basketball camp. And the guy who's in charge of the basketball camp says, "Hey, man, while you're here, I'd love to see your routine. Can I watch, your practice routine?" Because Kobe also brought his personal coach to work out with for that week. So he goes, "Yeah, man, 3:30 tomorrow, a.m." So he goes, okay. So the guy thinks he's going to show him up. So he shows up at 2:30, an hour early, and Kobe's already been there an hour. He went to sleep at like 6 p.m., and then he goes all in through the night, and, this and that and the other. So they go to breakfast afterwards, and the guy admittedly says, like, "I'm such a fool. I can't believe I said this to Kobe Bryant." He said, "Kobe, man, I looked at your routine, and, it's amazing." He goes, "Nothing you did impressed me." He said, "Everything was like normal kind of stuff that I teach my basketball kids, high school, early college, basics in the junior high." And he goes, "Of course, man." He goes, "Why do you think I'm the greatest baller on the planet?" He goes, "Because I have fallen in love with the basics." And so that, like, consists, like, John Lewis, who's one of my favorite trumpet players on the planet, this guy, who's a lovely guy, he does a 2-hour buzzing, and you go, there's a reason Malcolm McNabb is Malcolm McNabb. He stayed with the basics. You got to hear one of Malcolm's master classes, and I got to say, I went to one of his master classes, and foolishly, when I was like 20, I heard this master class, I was like, Malcolm, and I was bored. Because all he's talking about was the mouthpiece and this and that, and I go, and then later on, I realized, oh my gosh, this is the secret to it. Is like consistency, like Kobe Bryant, fall in love with the basics.
Yeah.
And in Malcolm's own way, he loves playing the trumpet. In Wayne's own way, Wayne loves the trumpet. He's like a kid. He's kind of goofy and fun. And Wayne has been one of my closest friends for a lot of years. And he, just the things that he would share about, and you could just tell he's just exuberant with like love for music and the trumpet. I think anybody that's that great. Gary Grant, before he died, man, I went to his house a bunch, and we would practice together and play together. And be like, "Oh, let's do this thing," and it's like Arbin's things or Clark things. So the basics, like hard work and in the basics, and like an exuberance of love, and then consistency.
Yeah,
you get anybody to do that and walk through life that way. In my master classes, one of the things I would say is the hardest thing about what we do is to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing to do because you're like, "Oh, I'm gaining some traction. My high range is good. My tonguing is my sound. Ooh, my sound's really doing the thing. My piccolo trumpet. Listen how good I sound on piccolo this month. I'm really working on this because I got to record it. My E-flat trumpet, whatever it is. You gain some traction. Then all of a sudden your kid, God forbid, gets a broken arm like my daughter did. Or it's worse, cancer, or your mother-in-law falls and now you have to move her in with you and your wife is counting on you. And now you go, okay, this is what God gave me. This is what's happening in my life. These are the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Can I push through? Because that cancer, that broken leg, that bankruptcy, that divorce, that's still going to be there tomorrow. But when the smoke clears for those things, am I going to be a person who stayed with my goals, my dreams, my passion, and fostered them? And then a lot of people do that to the detriment of their family. It's definitely not a 9-to-5, as you know. You're a great trumpet player. You work all the time. I'm sure you do pop horn bands in your home at 2 a.m. like we all did.
Yep.
And so, so there's a lot of difficult things. And I think that those are the through lines. Yes, some people go to college, come to L.A., go to New York, go to London. They grew up in the whatever, and and it's textbook, and they get audition and they make it into the LA Philharmonic, and then that's their life. Great, good for you. I think that's awesome. But for most people, it won't be that.
Yeah.
So I think it's about tenacity. How hard can you push through? How bad do you want?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's it. Like, I think I agree 100% with you of like those through lines. I don't think I'd ever consider it in that way, but I definitely agree with that.
There's some luck along the way, a little bit of luck. Here's a great story about luck. This is fun.
Yeah.
So this one day we're recording Arturo Sandoval's record called Dear Diz, Dear Dizzy, and it's great. It's the one, if you've ever seen the on YouTube, the Soli of Things to Come, it's Arturo, me, Wayne, Gary Grant, Dan Fernero. There's 5 of them. And it's really hard, like this really like incredibly hard Soli. So we're recording that, record. It's called Dear Diz, and Wayne plays something so outrageously good, And the day before that happened, I wasn't on the session, but I think Gary and Wayne and maybe Harry Kim were on the session for the Super Bowl of Beyonce. And at the end of the Randy Waldman arrangement of the Star Spangled Banner, and it's this beautiful fanfare, and she goes, "And the brave," and underneath when she sings "The Brave," and the whole orchestra cuts out, Wayne goes, "Doo." And he plays this high A, and it is like, it's so magical and beautiful. It's not just like a great high A, like, oh, we're the muscle high. No, it's like the overtones and the beauty of it, and it's magical. You can hear it on the recording. It's unreal. Beyonce, Star Spangled Banner, but it's the record version, not the live version. Okay, yeah, you can check it out later. But check this out. So the day before we did Dear Diz was that thing. And Wayne does something great. And Gary slams down his head. He goes, "God, man." He goes, "Man," he goes, "how you get so lucky on the track?" And of course, this was Gary's style, to be loud and crazy and funny, obnoxious, and just to be like, and he was always at the peril of getting disrespect for him, but always at the aid of lifting somebody else up. That's what he did. He was just funny.
Yeah.
You're so lucky every time, Wayne. He goes, "You got lucky 22 times yesterday," whatever the number. It was like 20-something times. He goes, and then, of course, the whole reason he did that was to tell everybody, you guys should have heard what Wayne did yesterday. Yeah. Like, that's how he was. He was just like a giver and a loving guy, and, all those kinds of things. And so he goes, "You get lucky. You always get so lucky on the trumpet." He goes, "Yesterday you got lucky 26 times," or whatever the.
Yeah.
And it was just a great moment. Not only just a funny moment, and it was like tense in the room because the music was really hard, but that was Gary's way of just like loving on.
Yeah.
And I always say this thing to Wayne, and I actually got it from Gary. So I played a solo where it was just me and Gary on this one date, and it was an a cappella like horns thing, and I played this like bebop thing, and he looked at me, he goes, "Well, you don't have to be such a dick about it." I didn't know what to say, and he's like, and then he would turn to everybody, he's like, "Do you hear what a dick this guy is? Did you hear that solo? How he played that?" And that was his way of like honoring you and being funny. It's just funny, So I would watch, and so I would say that to anybody. I sub a lot in Pacific Symphony, which is our big symphony here in Orange County, and Barry Perkins, who is like, if you haven't interviewed Barry, you need to get to Barry. He's played on a million motion pictures. He's one of our guys, and he's a really close friend of mine. He's a great guy. And every time Barry plays something, like if I'm playing assistant to him and I'm sitting next to him, and I'll like turn to him and I'll just look at him, I'll give him the side eye, I'll be like, "You don't have to be such a dick about it." It's just like, it's just fun. Like those are the beauty moments of this thing, like if somebody turned, like the greatest compliment you could get is you do something great and somebody turns to you and they're like, like, because that they're just, it's silliness, and that's, I think, we run on a lot of that kind of thing. We run on the adrenaline of those compliments, and you go, "Man, I'm getting lucky," but am I? Luck has nothing to do. I mean, there's a reason why people wanted to be around Gary. He's a great player. He's a fun guy. He might be loud and this and that and the other. There's a reason why people want to be around Wayne.
Yeah.
The greatest lead trumpet player of all time, hands down, no questions asked, inarguable. And he's a fun guy. Wayne's a loving guy. He also has a very, like, tolerable spirit. Like, in a lot of ways, much more tolerable than me. Like if I was leading a horn section, I'd be like, "Come on, guys, this, don't. But he's like a unique character, and you realize, the greats are great for a reason. There's no luck involved, So I know I'm kind of contradicting myself. Sometimes there's luck involved, sometimes there's not. But anyway, we're just rambling about nonsense, but just kind of fun.
Well, yeah, it's like, I mean, that's so important. I think that's like something that a lot of young players don't fully get or fully understand, and it's part of it's like you have to go through things and have experiences to learn that. But like part of what I'm trying to do is be like, hey, like, this is what like your idols are saying, and this is what people like are saying. Like, you gotta like think about it, and of course they'll experience it for themselves and whatnot. But that's just the whole idea, is like trying to give everybody the real life perspective of playing, but also like of just being a person.
Let's talk about something about being a person and the playing, and on and on and on. Let's not digress too much, but let's talk about this concept. I think there's a huge factor that we kind of overlook. I think like the millennials and the Gen Zers, they kind of think that they can information their way in and out of things.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get the app, and let me get the once I have this tool, let me order that book. No, really what it is I heard Jerry Seinfeld say, I'm a Seinfeld fan, and I was watching him on his comedy thing. He was talking about when he saw these kids doing skateboard tricks. He goes, you know who's going to be okay? The kids that do skateboard tricks. Because you know how long it takes before you can like do an ollie and a flip kick, and he goes, those kids have to do that thousands and thousands of times. So I hate to say it. Actually, I don't hate to say it. For anybody that's listening out there, if you have never just gone for like hours, minutes, tens of minutes, for weeks and months at a time, if you can't do that, then why would you expect to be playing in an echelon of player that can do that? Yeah. You don't belong. And it's not that we're gatekeepers, or I'm a gatekeeper, or Rob Shear's a gatekeeper, or Wayne Bergeron's a gatekeeper, or Barry Perkins, Chuck Finley. Nobody's a gatekeeper. All those guys are there, including myself, because they can do a certain thing. If I can't do a certain thing, the world will tell me.
Yeah.
I won't get invited to that party. That's just the way it is, right? I'm a mixer. Yeah. I'm a writer. I've written for lots of TV shows and lots of things. And when I hear somebody write like a symphony thing, I go, there's no question why that guy, why that gal got this account. They're amazing. Listen, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, you're not going to get asked to do it.
Yeah.
Sure, there's some politics and all that kind of stuff. People have to want to be around you, which we've all struggled with. We all have interesting personalities, even the greatest guys in the world. Let's be real honest, there's guys that don't want to be around Wayne. Not because he's not a good guy, but just because literal humanness. I think this, he thinks that. This person is this kind of... If you get into basic psychology, you go, not everyone's for you. My energy is not for everybody. Yeah. There's people that will tell you that Willie Murillo is the devil, and then there's people that will be like, oh, that guy's the greatest. He's the sweetest guy ever.
Yeah,
I get that, and I've stopped trying to control that, and I've stopped being nervous when I go, oh, I think that there's a guy in Utah that thinks I'm the devil. I think there's a guy in Europe that hates me, or there's these 18 people in Los Angeles that hate me. Like, none of that. None of it's true. None of it's real. Everybody loves everybody. It's all basic psychology. Everybody wants everyone to do good, but not too. It shines a light on your life, all these things. So if you're lazy and you don't shine the light on your life and you don't look at your habits, right? There's a reason why most CEOs are thin and in shape. Because they're disciplined people. You see these women at the gym and they're like boss babes and whatever that term is, all that kind of stuff. And you go, yeah, there's that's the life you want. They're on the treadmill at 5 a.m. They're reading books. And I go, yeah, that's amazing. There's a reason. We homeschool my little 2 kids. I have 5 children. My younger 2 are homeschooled. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why my kids are leaders. They grew up with me. I'm a leader type, Yeah. I'm driven. Anything that they did. You're going to play basketball? Great. It's an hour a day.
Yeah.
The homeschool ones too. Same thing. Like, my wife is the most amazing mother you could possibly imagine. Every meal is grass fed, everything. My kids are like, my son is 9. He's ripped. Like, he looks like he's ripped.
Yeah.
He reads, there's a reason. So you get a guy like John Lewis or Malcolm McNabb or Rob Shear, who's, if you haven't interviewed Rob, Rob's amazing. You get these guys and they've spent immense time on their sound, their discipline, their tonguing, their whatever. You go, yeah, that's great. You get somebody like Gary Grant, who was a pretty developed, sweetheart of a guy. Well, that's because that's important to him.
Yeah.
You get somebody like person X, who is amazing sound or technique, but maybe their personhood is underdeveloped. Well, that's because they haven't worked on their personhood.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm a developed writer because I love writing. and I worked on it, and I wanted to be great at that. It's not arrogant to say I'm really good at this, because I'm not really good at these things. I'm 30 pounds overweight. I don't want to be 30 pounds overweight, but I haven't worked on it.
Yeah.
And so for all the people watching this, it's like anything else. Being a CEO, being a student, you're lost. If your goal is to get the such and such, award at Harvard Law, and that's important to you and you're going to work on it, chances are you'll achieve that. So there's no like, oh, Willie's a gatekeeper or Dan Fernero is a gatekeeper, or there's none of that exists. And I'll tell you one of the most important conversations that ever changed my life. I was having breakfast in Japan one time with Andy Martin. We were out on a Fat Man tour. And then Andy Martin and I are just having, and we were kind of talking about this stuff. I wasn't complaining. He wasn't. We were just talking about the state of Los Angeles. You know what he said to me? He said, maybe one of the most revealing things that I've shared with students my whole life. He said, LA is actually a very fair system. He said, think about it, Willie. He's like, you're there on movie calls and, this and these sessions that we do all the time. He goes, is there anybody that's there that shouldn't be there? He goes, think about it. Like, there's nobody in the trombone section that doesn't belong there. There might be other people that could also be there that didn't get chosen, but there's nobody there that should. Yeah. Like, there's nobody there that absolutely can't play.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't exist. There's nobody there that is the biggest a-hole in the world and can't hold a conversation and they're weird and, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Everybody that's there can play. You might think that you're better than somebody and that you should be there, but that's just our human fallibility. So Los Angeles is actually a very fair system. Like, you can play and you're a good guy and you're easy to be around, you'll be there. People that aren't there, and I've watched, man, a million guys come through. Lead trumpet from North Texas, lead trumpet from this, since I was 19, so-and-so came to town. A lot of those guys get chased out of town. Because they think like, oh, I'm going to walk in and da-da-da. And I remember Andy kind of talking about that to me, like, no, man, like, you stay. And Andy is an incredible human. He's like he's like the picture of like, keep your mouth shut, just play incredibly well,
Yeah.
Like, he's just great at that. And you go, great, that's what you have to do,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's no secret to it. It's like, what's the secret to becoming a great lawyer? It's the same thing. What's the secret to becoming Kobe Bryant? It's the same thing. How do you become Wayne Bergeron? You can't become Wayne Bergeron because there's only one. Yeah. But you can be great. You can be the greatest Willie Murillo, or the greatest Jaden, or the greatest Steve, or the greatest Tom, or the greatest Sally, or the greatest Marcia. But you can't become Michael Jordan. There's only one. Wayne is the GOAT. John Lewis, GOAT status. Malcolm McNabb, GOAT status. Chuck Finley in his own way. But Chuck Finley doesn't have what Wayne has.
Yeah.
And Wayne doesn't have what John Lewis has. And John Lewis will never have what this guy has, and that guy will never, And so I think there's a acceptance, sort of an alchemy of like how we come to these conclusions. And sometimes some of the LA musicians never come. Some of these guys that are 65, 70 years old, they still act like 16-year-old girls. Who likes me, who doesn't like me, and what did I say the right thing? Why does it matter?
Yeah.
So some of the younger generation have that dialed in. And us, 50, 45 and on up, we don't have that dialed in.
Yeah.
Because that's the new world.
Yeah.
But some of the young cats are like, they text and they're very impersonal. They don't have any of that dialed in, and we have that dialed in. Everybody can learn from everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's super true. I love everything you're saying. This is all great. It's like the things that you can't necessarily get in music school. Like, that's not going to be taught in a classroom.
100%.
Can you give us a brief overview? I know we only got a little bit more time, but a brief overview of like some of the opportunities you've had. I think you've been with Gordon Goodwin, and rest in peace recently. I think Brian Setzer, Orchestra as well. And can you talk about like some of those opportunities, how you got those? Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but I think a friend of mine, Ray Herman, who used to be a Los Angeles saxophone player, said this. And he now plays with the band Chicago. And he said, Los Angeles is interesting in that your competition is also your referrals.
Yeah.
And I never forgot this. I remember this one thing that stuck out in my head. This one day, I got a flat tire coming off the freeway, and it was a BMW X5. And on that car, the tires are different sizes on the front and the back. So it was like, man, I got to find a place like right now, but it can't be like this little, like any kind of cheapy shop. Like, I got to find a place that has both of these things, right? So I'm driving and I walk, I go, hey, do you guys have, these tires? And the guy's looking and he's looking on the computer. No, I don't. I go, do you know anybody that does? Without a blink of an eye, he goes, nope. I go, oh my gosh. And I got to tell you, that was kind of a profound moment in my life. I was like 25 or something. And I remember thinking, oh, this guy is not like in other businesses, nobody's going to help you.
Yeah.
Everybody's competition. Our industry is totally different.
Yeah, it is.
Right? So I've had situations where I've worked for composers for whatever reason. Maybe they heard me with Brian Setzer or something like that. I remember the one time I worked for this guy who I'll keep anonymous. Great guy, just this great composer. And for Disney, does a ton of stuff for Disney. And I don't think he knew who Wayne Bergeron was. So he called me and he goes, hey, do you want to get another trumpet player for this session? It's for like a parade. I go, sure. Yeah. So I called Wayne. I go, hey, do you want to do this thing with me? He goes, sure. Yeah. No. And so through the conversation before the day came, I go, yeah, so Wayne's going to play first. And then he goes, no. I want you to play first. I go, no. I go, you don't get like our world. When Wayne's there, he plays first. You know, like that's how it goes. And he's the best guy for the job. Not only that, he's the best guy for the job. Right? He was like, no, I love the way you play. I'm like, you don't get it. You're going to put me in this interesting. And then I told Wayne about it. I go, hey, I don't really know how to do this. I'm young still. And this guy asked, he's like, there's nothing to know. He goes, we go to the session. You play first. And I was like, wow. And that taught me a lot. Like, Wayne understands all of that stuff. And he's been really good to a lot of young guys that have come up. There haven't been a ton of young guys that have come up because you have to be good and political and, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I've done records and things like with him, and he'll go, hey, make sure you know that Willie's playing the solo on like he's always like reaching out and doing. So a lot of those opportunities that I've had have come from my competition, so to speak. I don't think of it as competition. You just think of it as a community. But in reality, your competition is your referral. They're your colleagues. It's a really interesting world that way. So this guy, Ray Herman, said to me, it's not, we have that phrase, it's not who, or the traditional phrase is, it's who you know. Yeah. And I remember Ray said to me one day, he said, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. Mm-hmm. So I got that. I did a rehearsal for a guy called Bill Elliott, who's a great composer. He's now at Berklee School of Music. He might even be retiring soon or recently retired. Great Disney writer when he was in LA, did lots of stuff. Incredible writer. I did this rehearsal, and I'm like sitting there, like new guy, and I'm like 23 or something like that, and just scared out of my mind. And I get a phone call like 2 hours later after that rehearsal, and it's Ray Herman. He goes, hey, man. He goes, I just did a rehearsal with you. And you were, you're the guy, you're the Mexican guy that on the side of the room that, I go, yeah. He goes, hey, I don't know if you know who Brian Setzer is, but I'm the contractor and I wanted to see. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to do that gig. And I did it for 9 years. I ended up as the musical director. And that did not come from somebody who I knew. Yeah. It came from somebody who knew me. They knew about, and he said to me, he goes, yeah, I've heard about you and I hear you're doing great things. And I was like, God, I don't know what he'd heard, but somehow it was good. And yeah. So something I would, say to young guys, young cats, it's who knows you. A lot of those referrals and a lot of those things, the opportunities I've gotten to like sub on the LA Phil or play in the Pacific Symphony or play in the Hollywood Blue Orchestra or do that session or this thing or play for Michael Giacchino or that account or this composer, whatever. Every single one of those things, let me say it like this, not one of those things came directly from me just being a stone cold killer. Right. No, it came from like people that go, no, we trust this person in this position. Yeah, Sally's the one you want. She's going to keep you organized, and you go, great. I trust Sally. Great. Willie's the one you want. Because I trust him to play second trumpet on this, and if you need him to play some jazz or some lead or some piccolo trumpet, he'll be okay. Everything comes from everybody else. Yeah, and so you would be remiss to not recognize the goodness of people around you. Now, are there cold, hard things where people keep you out? Of course. That's human nature. That's just the way it is. Yeah. It's some of it, I guess you could categorize loosely as like legitimate. And some of it you go like, no, man, that's BS. Does it matter? I don't like Jaden, so I'm not going to hire Jaden. Does that make me a terrible person? I don't know. It's an interesting thing. If there's sinister things or if it's because of a lack of character, like I'm immature and I cannot grow a good beard. And I'm so pissed that Jaden can grow a good beard. So F that guy. I'm not going to hire, like there's certain, you know what I mean? Like, I guess you can kind of look at it 100 different ways. But the bottom line is where I come back to with my faith, where I circle around is nobody can ever take my work. Not because I'm so good. No. Because as a Christian believer, I believe that this is what God has for me. This is my life. Does it mean that I can't do something that Wayne could do? or something that John Lewis could do. No, I have abilities like those guys, and they have abilities like mine, and theirs far surpass mine in certain areas, and mine surpass theirs in certain areas, or mine are just to the like. Everyone's got their own brand of genius and good.
Yeah.
But if that's not for you, if that's not what God has for you, it's not going to come in your path. There's this concept that we call cooperate, never chase. And I think because I've always been a climber, I could be accused very easily of chasing, being overly aggressive. I want that, and I want to try this thing, and I want to learn how to do that, and I want to be in that crowd. And that there's a lot of guys that do that. I'm not the only one guilty of that. I might be the only one willing on a podcast to admit that I've done that. Because everyone makes mistakes. You're 22 at a certain point. You're 31. You started getting money. You started to get a little fame. You're like, oh man, I'm really doing this. How exciting is this? I'm just some kid from from East LA, and now I'm growing up and I'm doing these things. I played on the Hollywood Bowl, and I wrote a chart, and listen, it's on the radio. Now, how fun is that? Everyone does that. That is in that world.
Yeah.
Some people are manage to keep their wits about them, and they don't step in crap, and and some people do. I've stepped in crap plenty of times and gotten in trouble and called on it, and I've also one of my favorite things, I think Wayne said this, is like, we're like the CIA, right? Our failures are public and our successes are private.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows how many sessions. I mean, I've done a gazillion sessions with Wayne, and man, the things that he's done on these dates, and then you miss one note, and everyone's like, oh, there's a famous joke, right? To illustrate this is funny. Guy sees another guy, hasn't seen him forever. Man, how are you doing? He goes, I'm doing great. A lot of great things happening in my life. Guy goes, well, tell me. He goes, oh, I was on the Grammys last week, Oh, I didn't hear about that. That's cool. Good for you, man. I didn't hear about that. Yeah, I also did the Academy Awards. Oh, I didn't hear about that. Good for you. That's so great. He goes, yeah, and I recorded this thing, man. A beautiful solo. It's going to be on the next John Williams. Oh, I didn't hear that. And he goes, yeah, how's the chops and everything? I'm kind of struggling a little bit. A couple weeks ago, I was in Bakersfield, which is like a little tiny podunk town in California, right?
Yeah. I
was in the Radisson Inn in the lobby of the Bakersfield at 2 a.m. doing a big band gig, and I kind of cracked this high F. And he goes, yeah, I heard about that. I love that joke because it's so true, And it's just like, that's kind of the way our world works. It's just the way our world works.
It's so is there anything now that you wish you knew when you were just starting out?
Yes, everything. Everything I know now, I wish I knew, But that's the beauty of like life and the mystery of God and how we raise into these beautiful things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard someone say recently, learn to work way harder on your personhood than on your craft.
Mm-hmm.
There's this biblical concept in marriage that like your spouse is more important than your children, because from the flow of your marriage will come love and discipline and all these things, and it just flows down. But there has to be a hierarchy, right? There has to be a hierarchy. Okay, so I don't know if any people that are parents out there agree, but even like pop psychologists agree that that's true. Like your spouse has to be first, that kind of thing. Sometimes the kids come first, but generally it has to be that.
Right.
That's kind of like the way our careers have to be. Like you have to be you first. You have to be disciplined. You have to be kind. You have to be structured. And if you're too eager, that comes out of anxiety. If you're too anxious, that comes out of fear. If you're too fearful, and so on and so forth. And it just piles and piles and piles. So I hired Andy Martin one time to do a master class for this thing at this college I was teaching. And he said, it's really simple. Be cool to work with. Be the funnest guy to work with. Be easy, right? And be great. Be the baddest. That's all it is. Of course, that's kind of like telling somebody, well, just be a nice person and your life will get better. And that's true, right? But we all have traumas from when we were kids. We all have hiccups. We got personality things. We all have agendas. And so if my agenda starts to intersect with your agenda, ooh, who wins right there? And is it the dog eat dog world? And I mean, so I think it's the one thing that I would say is learn to develop your personhood way more than your craft. Because your chops can be down 2 days from now and be the worst you've ever felt. You could get the flu, you could get COVID, you could get a broken leg, you could be trying to, the family vacation and you're closing the door and boom, somebody hits you. That happens. Okay. Yeah. But your personality is inherent. That's what people remember, how you make them feel, not what you did on your deathbed. And it's all the things that we talk about. On your deathbed, nobody's going to be like, I wish I did more sessions. No one's going to say that. Right. I have had a bout of Bell's palsy twice now. And I did an interview with Wayne about his cancer. We talked about our situations. And by no means, by the way, anyone watching this, do I compare Bell's palsy to cancer. Ever. Okay, I want to, but we were just talking about, like, this would be a good thing to talk about.
Yeah.
One of the first things that Wayne said in that interview is he said, we were at the house just sitting in the studio like this and just talking. He said, the great Ryan Anthony he was first in Cleveland and then he went to Dallas. I actually grew up with Ryan Anthony. We were all friends. And Ryan was just one of these great guys, and he was a Christian too, and so we shared that. I grew up with his grandpa, was like my mentor guy. So Ryan and I were great friends. And so his brother RB would text me all the time, Ryan's not doing good, this, that, and the other. And Ryan would say the same things. I just want to leave a legacy of my person. People first, people first, people first. And something that Wayne, I think, got out of it, and he shared that with me in that interview, and we can link that interview in the thing, is Wayne said, I thought I was going to be like the great Ryan Anthony. There's pictures of Ryan and video of him. They did like this big hike up to the top of some summit, snow, backpacking. He takes his little pocket trumpet with him, and he's playing thing like, and that's where the cancer blows. Anybody that's out there watching this knows about cancer blows. That's where that comes from. It was an honoring of Ryan, and he's the one that started it. Wayne said, man, I got my first radiation treatment or chemotherapy, and I'm probably botching the story, but he goes, man, the last thing I was thinking about was the trumpet. I was so sick, and he's like, I cried a lot, and this and that. I remember those times.
Yeah.
So who are you outside of the trumpet? What's your legacy? What's your life? Are you the same person? Are you able to share your life, vulnerability? Do you make other people's lives better? And I think sometimes we think about just our lives, and this is the time that we're in. We're 22, 26, 31. Now I got 2 kids. Now we're 35. I got 3 kids, and I'm doing this, and I want to buy the next house and get to the next thing, and I want to drive a BMW and a Porsche, and we're anxious and eager. But none of that stuff matters, you know?
Yeah.
I love the thing I heard somebody said, you got 1 million problems until you have a health problem, and then you have 1 problem.
Yeah.
So I caught it, Wayne taught me a lot through that as friends, and we would talk, and he would send me these little videos. Hey, check it out. My chops are coming back. And look at this. What do you think? It was so great. And I just think about that. One of the questions I asked him in my interviews, I said, what do you think's different now? And he said, and of course I had to bust his balls because I'm his friend, and we all bust each other's balls, but he goes, I think I'm nicer now. And I said, I disagree. Being silly, of course, but that was his thing. It's like, I think I'm nicer now. Like, there's just a more tolerance. You start to love people and see people through grace rather than justice. That guy kept me off that gig. I'm going to do this. And that guy was never going to work. And you go, why does it matter? Yeah. So the idea of vulnerability and working on your personhood rather than your craft. I mean, in addition, of course, always in addition.
Sure.
But harder, I think, is really the most important thing.
Yeah. I love that. That's perfect ending. Thank you.
We'll pick it up next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jaden.
Thanks. We'll talk again soon.